Have you purchased the new quad by Pat McGrath, Passion Fleur, and now you regret it? Comment down below. With Pat McGrath, my strategy now is to wait. Wait for Pat McGrath fans to buy the product, to see unedited swatches, and then evaluate if the product adds something in my collection. And wait for good sales. This is a strategy I followed this time, and I'm glad I did. I'm glad I waited because I don't like that palette. I watched Mariam video yesterday. I think she's the best YouTuber describing Pat McGrath products. She buys almost every new product. So the blushes are nice, but a bit greasy for me. I like more midi matte finishes, especially for summer when I get naturally more oily. So I don't want that greasiness on my face. Also, I have long hair. They would stick on my cheeks. It's unpleasant. I personally don't like that finish. The palette is something very dupeable. So I did my version of it that I think is quite close. Besides Mariam on YouTube, I also like Rima on Instagram. She provides very accurate swatches, and I base my dupe here on her swatches. These are Pat McGrath dupes, and I also will propose my version. I will provide my alternative for these two shades that are particularly unflattering on me. So let's start. The first color is actually more interesting in my version rather than the original one. I wanted something cool pink, and I grabbed the Mothership 3. This color has a coolness in it. So I overlapped this one to another staple palette that is this one by Pat, that is a Celestial Odyssey, that has a lavender shade that I depotted. So let's do it again together on the other arm. So this is the color. It's great and even darker than I expected it to be by looking at the pan. With this cool pink that is also duochrome, has also a golden shift. It makes the color that I expect, but at the same time it gives a shine that is very refined, that is proper of this baked finish, that unfortunately is not the case for the original quad, Passion Fleur. So this is already an improved version. The second shade is again from the Celestial Odyssey palette, and is this one that is a orangey pink. So this lavender is Lunar 8, while this one is Rose Venus. It seems again lighter in the pan compared how it swatches on my skin. It's very orange. So this is the closest match in my opinion. Then there's that bottom right shade that I duped with another shade from the same palette again. It seems that if you own this palette, you can have a good dupe of the new quad Passion Fleur. This Celestial Odyssey palette was a great investment, to be honest. And this was placed, I think I deposited partially this palette. I think it was in this bottom row. Let me see if I can spot it. It may be Palladium. It may be this shade. Yeah, it's a nude color. This has a antique gold tinge. It seems close to the original swatches. You see how much better is this texture compared to these ones. Personally, I don't like this type of texture, this metallic texture. Is aging on my lids, but the colors are great, so I'm keeping these shades. The quality is great. And finally, the matte. So the matte is a plum, more on the violet side, so more cooler toned than the other aubergine plums from Pat McGrath. For sure, it's not a color for me. For some reason, I associate that with a mature woman. It gives me that old ladylike and that I don't appreciate on me. So it's a shade that I never reach for. There's this plum shade that I try to remove in the pot. So I made a mess here because it's the Bridgerton 2, from the Bridgerton 2 palette. The Bridgerton 2 palette has a cardboard base, and I've noticed that when this happens, it's difficult to pop up the shades to remove the shade. So do not try, because yeah, it's dangerous. But fortunately it happened to this. I tried it first with this. That's something that I don't like at all. And this is the shade, and it's still too pink leaning, too warm toned. I think the original one is more violet leaning, so I layered a violet that I took from Colourpop, and this one is called Iffy. I removed some shades to compose other palettes, but this is the shade just to give coolness on top of this shade here, and it tends to oxidate and to give a darker effect, but I'm fine with it and will never use this shade, so I don't care too much to match this color exactly. But I'm pretty happy with the result of the shimmer shades, so I'm happy I skipped the palette. This is my dupe with Pat McGrath palette, and you will need only 3 palettes: the Mothership 3, the Bridgerton, if you really want that plum shade, but you may skip this one, and the star of the show is the Celestial Odyssey palette. This is a great palette because I've noticed that a lot of other releases have shades in common with this palette. It's not the first time I'm duping new releases with this palette. But what is my improved version? So my improved version will have this shade because it's fantastic. Personally, I think I will use this today. I love how shiny it is, you see? And how smooth it is compared to the other ones, other metallic ones that are more grainy. You see that, I think. That is the peculiarity of the baked shades by Pat. The magic is in the finish. Anyway, so I will keep this one, and I can keep this one, but I will change these two. So let's go back to the original palette. The top left shade is the pink, so I will keep the pink, as I said. The top right shade is this warm orangey leaning shade, metallic shade, but I would propose a greenish shade. Since I want to keep this one, I would change radically this one and have that greenish hue that I expected from this palette. That maybe would have been the trigger to buy the original palette. And I will pick the greenish one from Tom Ford. A combination of these two. This is a smooth taupe that is very gray, but I will overlap this green, and there's that. This would be a great shade to pair with the pink. So this would be my shade instead of this orange. Then as I said, I would keep the neutral one, this one, because it's a great neutral shade. So this trio for me would be much better than this trio here. And instead of this matte, I would use a brown matte or a green matte. For example, this one, this is a destroyed, it's called Water Me, and is an ultra metallic, but it's not really metallic. Mine arrived broken, so. This will change completely the vibe of this palette and make it more grungy. So this would be my perfect quad that has some freshness and some novelty. So this is my proposal. This is Pat's proposal. Conservative, let's say, because we have seen these shades so many times. And some consideration of the packaging. Is it so different from something like that from Colourpop? It's not, in my opinion. This is my favorite. I think I will use it today. And see you in my next video. Bye bye.